Well, hello. Welcome. It is Doug Diamond here. You are at another Diamond Report Live. I'm glad you guys made it. It is currently 10:06 p.m. Central Time on January 28th. The last show for January, I guess. Wow, it's almost February. So crazy. Yeah, hello and welcome. Hope you guys enjoyed that video. Victoria Newland. Wow, what a... She's another one of the Biden flunkies. And I think it was Susan in chat said she looks absolutely evil. And that she does. She definitely does. She fits the part. So hello and welcome everyone on Rumble, everyone on Facebook, and everyone on YouTube. We are live streaming on 4 different platforms all at the same time. I'm multitasking. We're on Rumble, we're on 2 Facebook pages, and my YouTube channel, Take It to the Lord in Prayer. So hello and welcome. Glad you guys made it. Let's get into the news. Lots to go through tonight, and I'm glad you guys have made it here with me. Hope you had a good week last week and a good weekend. I don't know what the weather's doing where you are, but here it's starting to get cold again, but we had 2 days of about, I don't know, almost 70 degrees, something like that. And this was after about nearly a foot of snow and ice. Geoengineered weather events, weather whiplash, as Mr. Dane calls it. So yeah, let's have a look at the news and see what we can sort out together here. U.S. sorties 6 KC-135 Stratotankers to the UK. Well, I happen to know that those very planes are some of the planes they use in the spraying programs, the geoengineering programs. They're going to the Middle East. Big operation coming. This is according to HalTurnerRadioshow.com. He's got several of these articles unlocked. So I don't know if he's already going back on what he said or what. He said he was going to lock everything and have it only be for subscribers. However, you can go there and whether you're a subscriber or not and see some of these articles that we're going to mention tonight. U.S. sorties 6 KC-135s. Big operation coming in the Middle East as of 8 p.m. Eastern Time tonight. So just a couple hours ago, the U.S. has sorted 6 KC-135s, or Stratotankers, for mid-air refueling. Tankers are presently destined for the United Kingdom and are expected to then be deployed to the Middle East. The thing is, the U.S. already has a very significant number of Stratotanker aircraft in the Middle East. Yeah, and some of them are spraying the heck out of everyone else that's living there in the geoengineering programs. This large sortie of such aircraft seemed to indicate that a much larger operation by U.S. forces is now contemplated in the Middle East after the U.S. military base at Syria was hit with a large drone strike today, killing 3 U.S. soldiers and wounding at least 24 others. Seems to be the buzz, all of the talk lately. However, we've had multiple U.S. military people killed in Ukraine, and there's no mention of that. Well, it says at least 24 others here were wounded. 34 troops at that base have been evacuated for, quote, traumatic brain injuries. So not good. U.S. politicians are already suggesting the U.S. hit Iran because the attackers of the base were allegedly Iranian-backed militants. Iran denies any link to the attack that killed the U.S. troops. Quote, Iran has nothing to do with the attacks. The conflict has been initiated by the U.S. military against resistance groups in Iraq and Syria. A spokesman for the Iranian mission at the UN says, who do you believe? Do you believe the Iranians or do you believe the criminal U.S. government who happens to also run the U.S. military? I'll tell you who I tend to believe. Unfortunately, but anyway, that is one of the articles on HalTurnerRadioshow.com. Let's see what else we have here. This is another one that's open to the public. Biden, we shall respond to the attack that killed 3 U.S. service members in the Middle East, saying, quote, Iran, but reality is it was Iraqi groups. This is according to Hal's website, of course. I have no way of knowing. I'm just going off of what he says. This afternoon, while visiting South Carolina, Commander-in-Chief Joe Biden vowed, we shall respond to the attack that killed U.S. soldiers in Jordan. Many wonder if he's preparing more pallets of cash for Iran. Meanwhile, Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin issued a statement. So apparently he's still alive. We've talked about that several times here lately. I am outraged, this is his quote, I am outraged and deeply saddened by the deaths of 3 of our U.S. service members and the wounding of other American troops in an attack last night against U.S. and coalition forces who were deployed to a site in northeastern Jordan near the Syrian border to work for the lasting defeat of ISIS. Yeah, right. These brave Americans and their families are in my prayers, and the entire Department of Defense mourns their loss. And then it says, Iran-backed militias are responsible for these continued attacks on U.S. forces, and we will respond at a time and a place of our choosing. The President and I will not tolerate attacks on American forces since when? And we will take all necessary actions to defend the U.S. and our troops and our interests. Says, while Austin is openly blaming Iran, far different information is coming out of Iraq. Iraqi sources say the killing of U.S. soldiers did not happen in a vacuum. It was a reaction to the U.S. targeting the killing of Iraqi resistance group commanders. So Iraq information is all but confirming it was Iraq and not Iran. And yet, look at what Lindsey Graham, the war criminal, wants. He says, hit Iran now, hit them hard. Lindsey Graham, what an absolute war criminal the man is. Warmonger, for sure. So anyway, there's more information here on Hal's website, and let's see what other headlines we can find on the site. It says, Germany plan to tell citizens build bomb shelters in their homes. So I guess with their spare change they have just laying around. Go ahead and build bomb shelters in your homes and your garages, because war with Russia is coming. Germans will be expected to turn their homes into bomb shelters if a major war breaks out in Europe. Newspaper Bild reported on Saturday. I mentioned this last week. If you guys were around for last week's broadcast, this is something that I talked about then. Not necessarily the bomb shelters, but the Bild report, the leak. Citing a draft document from the Defense Ministry. According to the report, the ministry is set to complete work on a classified operational plan by April. The draft envisions Germany as a transit country crucial for the delivery of weapons and equipment rather than a state with an active front line. For that reason, soldiers would be tasked with securing key highways, railway stations, and ports. At the same time, the government would have to rely on civilians to step in and cover some duties typically assigned to the military and the police, including the protection of power plants. There are only 579 functional bomb shelters in Germany. That's probably 579 more functional bomb shelters than we have here in the U.S., if you don't count the DUMBs. Says, so the plan reportedly sees citizens setting up their own shelters in such places as basements and garages. Bild quoted the head of the Federal Office of Central Civil Protection and Disaster Assistance, Ralph Tiesler, as saying that the building of new shelters is no longer feasible due to time constraints. Germany has been looking for ways to boost its army, including the threats stemming from the Russia-Ukraine conflict. The government has set the goal of increasing the size of the Bundeswehr from 183,000 soldiers to 203,000 by 2031. And then it says, Defense Minister of Germany stated this month that Russia could attack a NATO country within 5 to 8 years. Putin's already said that's not happening. He later somewhat adjusted his assessment, telling Bild on Friday, at the moment, I don't see any danger of a Russian attack on NATO territory or on any NATO partner country. But go ahead and build your bomb shelters. We may need to take them from you, apparently. Russia has repeatedly accused NATO of fear-mongering and stoking tensions in Europe. The head of Russia's Foreign Intelligence Service, Sergei Naryshkin, recently dismissed the claims that Moscow is planning an attack on NATO as informational warfare. You don't say. Anyway. So I thought this one was kind of interesting. This is talking about, well, this next one is 3 U.S. troops killed and 24 injured in a drone attack in Jordan. We've already mentioned that. But there is more on that article on HalTurnerRadioshow.com. This one's kind of interesting. Russian State Duma member, you can't save America. There will be no election in 2024 because America will not exist. Okay, so this is a Russian, and this is what this is about. This is the guy who predicted that 2/22/22 would be the start of Russia moving into Ukraine, right? So he pretty much got that right. I think he was off maybe by like a day or two or something. I think it was 224, 22 if I remember right. Anyway, it says Russian Vladimir Zhirinovsky, in his final speech to the Russian Duma, said there won't be an election in 2024 because America won't exist. This was the same speech where he predicted to the day, according to Hal here, when Russia would enter Ukraine. So he was right about that. This speech was given over 2 years ago, and no one thought anything of it because he was rather bellicose. He died in April 2022, months after this speech. So he died a couple months after his prediction came true. I'm sure it was a coincidence, though. With his amazing declaration about Russia entering Ukraine having been so accurate, his prediction about America is more than a bit disconcerting. Here's the part of his speech to the Russian State Duma, their equivalent to our House of Representatives, wherein he speaks about America. So let's listen to it. It's in Russian, obviously.
Уже Трамп снял
you can hear it here.
Лозунг «Сделаем Америку великой, спасем Америку». Вот правильно, Трамп. Только не удастся тебе спасти Америку, ибо выборов в 2024 году в Америке не будет.
I'll play this
Потому что
with
Америки не
the
будет.
Russian version,
Значит, и
and I'll go
выборов
back
не
and mute
будет.
it.
Пусть в
And then I'll read it for those who happen to hear the audio version of this show later. So let me mute it. I'll rewind it. It is pretty important. So here's what he said. This is the subtitles. Already Trump removed the slogan, "Make America Great." Now it's Save America. That's right, Trump. Only you will not be able to save America because there will be no elections in 24 in America. Because America will not exist, so there will be no elections. Let him play golf for the last time at his golf course. That's what the guy said. Given what is now taking place at the Texas border, wherein Texas has had to seize a portion of their land back from the federal government to stem the flow of millions of illegal aliens, and wherein the Biden regime has given Texas an ultimatum to allow federal agents back in or face the consequences, it seems entirely possible that actual civil war may break out very soon over this. Civil war could end up being no America anymore. Yeah, so pretty wild. Pretty wild. So, again, this is on Hal's website again, so feel free to take a look at this. Speaking of Texas, this is another interesting article. Again, most of these articles had been locked on Hal's website, so I have no idea why he's unlocked all these, but maybe he saw a huge drop in subscribers or something, so he's reopened it back up. I have no idea. Russia to supply weapons to Texas if needed to fight the Biden border heist. I thought this was kind of funny. I think this guy's joking, but you guys let me know what you think. Russia may supply heavy weapons to Texas so as to defend itself and its border from any attempt by Biden to forcibly reopen the Texas border to illegal aliens. Sounds kind of familiar, doesn't it? Russia's permanent representative to the UN has said publicly, it is important to understand that by supplying weapons to Texas, Russia does not become a party to the conflict. You get the joke here? This was a priceless thing for Russia to say, given it is the exact language used by the U.S. and NATO when those entities supply weapons to Ukraine to fight Russia. Recall, too, the entire Ukraine thing started because Ukraine began to use its federal troops against two oblasts, two states, Luhansk and Donetsk. So the parallels between the parallels between the Ukraine and NATO and Russia, and now Texas, Russia, and the U.S. are perfect. In one statement by Russia, the entire Texas Biden border heist changed dramatically. And then Hal says, for the record, I support Texas. Yeah, I do too. However, I think he was joking, but Hal thinks he's serious. So I don't know. Pretty wild. It's a strange world. Let's see. There's some other good articles on here. I'll let you guys peruse the website if you're interested. And let's take a look at some articles on needtoknow.news. Needtoknow.news. Congressional staffer says members of Congress are blackmailed following sex parties. James O'Keefe is at it again. He's making sure this info comes out so that we all know about it. Of course, we've already known about this, but a lot of people don't know this, actually. Titus Warren worked for Republican Congressman Bruce Westerman as a legal aide in 2023. Titus is a secret Democrat who has worked in the Republican camp. He was secretly recorded by James O'Keefe. He heads up O'Keefe Media Group. Says he was secretly recorded by O'Keefe when asked how Republican constituents might respond to his viewpoints, Titus said, if they do care, they can kiss the crack of my arse because I don't care. Titus unwittingly provided good intel on the inner workings of Congress and how members of both parties are coerced to vote a certain way through what he called a vote, quote, suggestion. But these so-called suggestions aren't suggestions at all. They are ways of blackmailing members of Congress who have engaged in affairs on their spouses or downright sex parties with other members, according to Titus. There's a group chat sponsored by the Democrat and Republican parties before a vote, and the parties tell congressmen how to vote. So it's all coming out. Former Republican New York Congressman George Santos said that a former staffer revealed that there was rampant sexual activity between staffers in, quote, the cages that members of Congress use for storage in the basement of each House office building. Santos reported the activity to the House Sergeant at Arms, who ignored the warning. When O'Keefe asked how the blackmail of Congress members and voting corruption could be stopped, Santos said that the chiefs of staff and the legislative directors are literally in bed with everyone and everything around them, and maybe the ones wielding power and making voting recommendations to their members. So it says that's who's doing it. So here's a video here if you guys want to watch it. It's embedded from O'Keefe Media Group onto this story, on this article. It's a Rumble video, and yeah. So, more of what we already knew, right? Not too surprising. However, it's interesting to catch these people in the so-called act. And of course, this is what Madison Cawthorn he's mentioned here in this article. This is the same kind of thing he's mentioned over the last year or two. So anyway, yeah, it's all coming out. The slimy slime balls that are heading up our supposed government in Washington, D.C., the District of Criminals. FBI orders banks to flag purchases tied to religion or MAGA. The FBI, U.S. Treasury, and Joe Biden have now weaponized America's own banks against ordinary citizens, ordering them to search and flag people for things like reading religious texts, like the Bible, or having MAGA in the description of payments. Representative Jim Jordan said that the banks are searching their own customers for key terms regarding purchases, and that it appears the banks are doing it without warrants or legal process. The key words included religious items, whether they shop at Cabela's or Bass Pro Shop, or if they're purchasing a firearm. So, secret surveillance program, except it's happening through the banks. Then the government can say, see, we're not doing it. So here's a embedded video here with my friend Alex Newman as the guest. He's been on Lost Search Radio several times. Good guy. And he's talking about this thing that's happening with the banks. How they've weaponized yet something else against us. Of course, banks have been weaponized against us for a long time. But this is even new information, I think. All right, Arizona GOP boss resigns after leaked tape indicating he bribed Kari Lake to leave office. Or he tried to. Should say he tried to. She didn't take the money. The leader of Arizona's Republican Party, Jeff DeWitt, resigned on Wednesday after leaked audio of him appearing to offer a bribe to Republican candidate Kari Lake was exposed. He asked her if there is a dollar amount that she would take to stay out of the U.S. Senate race, which of course they stole from her anyway. Those making the offer were not revealed, except they were powerful people from, quote, back east. Kari Lake said that she refuses to support the globalist agenda, and the effort to remove her from politics is about defeating Donald Trump. She vowed that she will continue her campaign and that it is a hill that she is willing to die upon. Yes, let's hope she doesn't get her wish. They're really, really scared of this woman, which is why I personally think she would probably be the best pick that Trump could make as VP. I think she's separately running for a Senate seat on her own. So she may not do that. I don't know. And I'm not even sure that he's considering her, but you would think that he would have to be. So, having two people that essentially last time around got their elections stolen from them. Not to say it won't happen again, which it probably will. So, anyway, pretty interesting article here about the bribe that happened, and I heard a video of her saying in her own words exactly what happened, and then played the recording. I don't have that queued up here, but you guys can find it. It's available on Rumble. It's out there, and she did a live stream last week, I think it was, and talked about this. So yeah, but I think she's doing a lot of really good things. So we'll see what happens if she's indeed the VP choice or not. Hertz dumps 20,000 electric vehicles and will replace them with what? Gas-powered cars. Why is that? Because they work. Short report by Catherine Austin Fitz from the Solari Report shows how individuals can push back against facial recognition in retail outlets. The big story was about Hertz dumping 20,000 EV cars that will be replaced by gas-powered cars because EVs are too expensive, the range is short, and they take too much time to refuel. Hertz's decision shows that businesses must put costs above global warming nonsense to survive. Other businesses will follow. Austin Fitz also discussed globalist Musk and his role in promoting EVs, satellites, brain implants, and Twitter X. So that is a article on needtoknow.news. Yes, anybody out there have an EV? I know a person or so that has one, but not too many. Red state governors stand with Texas against the Biden regime over the border crisis. This was all the talk earlier in the week. Still kind of is, and rightfully so. But why now? Why now? Why is that? So we're going to look at that a little bit closer in the broadcast. But this article here is saying, this is again still on needtoknow.news. Recently, the U.S. Supreme Court authorized federal agents to remove the razor wire barrier installed by Texas at the border. The deadline is today. Now, this was January 26th, so Friday. Texas responded by installing more razor wire. Texas Governor Abbott declared an invasion under Article 1, Section 10, Clause 3, to invoke Texas constitutional authority to defend and protect itself. He said that authority is the supreme law of the land and supersedes any federal statutes to the contrary. Governors from Virginia, Florida, South Dakota, Georgia, Montana, and Oklahoma have publicly declared their support for Texas's right to self-defense against the lawless Biden regime. In total, 14 states, this is old news, it's 24, it's I think 25 or 6 now. And then it mentions 14, but again, it's 25, 26 states. I think it's 26 including Texas, is what I remember hearing before. They have stepped up to support Texas's efforts and deployed personnel and resources to secure the border in President Biden's absence, because he's always gone. He's always on vacation. But then again, he's working for the other side anyway. Meanwhile, Democrats are urging Biden to seize control over the Texas National Guard, and that may be what happens. We'll see. I sort of think he'll back down, but we'll see what happens. Yeah, so this is a border standoff video embedded here on the article. And it is the lawless Supreme Court that made sure all this happened. So, yeah. We are running out of peaceful options, are we not, friends? I think so. Showdown. Texas defies Supreme Court, installs more razor wire along the border. Says Texas National Guard responded to the Supreme Court's order allowing the Biden regime to cut and remove razor wire installed along the southern border by defying the ruling and adding more razor wire. Republican Governor Abbott previously installed about 30 miles of razor wire at the Texas-Mexico border near Eagle Pass to stop the flood of illegal aliens being let in by the Joe Biden administration. Conservative quote-unquote justices Amy Coney Barrett and John Roberts voted in favor of Biden, along with liberal justices Sotomayor, Kagan, and Jackson. The decision will remain in effect pending a final ruling on Biden's lawsuit against the state of Texas. Critics Alex Jones and Wayne Allen Root have suggested that the Supreme Court justices may be being bribed, threatened, or extorted due to rulings made against the Constitution and the American people. I don't know. I think they literally hate this country. I don't know if it takes bribery. Even so, a coalition of concerned Americans from across the nation announced a massive convoy will travel to major border cities in Arizona, California, and Texas to raise awareness about Biden's open border policies and the drug trafficking and human smuggling they are facilitating. So another video and further information embedded here on this article on needtoknow.news. So, yeah, it's about time something happens. I'm not convinced Abbott is doing it for the right reasons. However, it doesn't really matter as long as the right thing happens. So we'll see. Again, we're going to look at one other article I've got on that in just a minute. Dutch Queen at Davos. Biometric digital IDs are good for tracking initiative status. Bill Gates definitely agrees. Queen Maxima. How about that name? Queen Maxima of the Netherlands called for a universal... Is that even real? Is there really even a queen? Queen Maxima of the Netherlands called for a universal digital ID at the annual World Economic Forum meeting in Davos and said that it is very necessary for financial services. How about that? It's very necessary for financial services. She added that digital ID is also good for school enrollment. It's good for health. Yeah, right. Who actually got a initiative or not. And it's good to get your subsidies from the government. See how it's all bundled together? She has been a leading proponent of CBDCs, central bank digital currencies, to increase financial inclusion. The adoption of CBDCs and digital IDs are critical for governments to impose a communist China-style social credit score system to gain totalitarian control of the West. And here is the video of her talking about it here. It's embedded on this page. Queen Maxima of the Netherlands at WEF24. A digital ID is good for knowing who got their initiative or not. They literally think you're a slave, and they get to tell you what is injected in your body for the greater good. Of course. And then here is, what's his name? Augustin Carstens. We can just call him Tiny, or Jabba the Hutt, I guess. He looks like Jabba the Hutt. Talking about the Bank for International Settlements, BIS, and how they don't have control over every single peso out there, and they want control over every single peso. So, because someone might be spending $20 here or there, 20 pesos here or there, and we don't know where it's going, is essentially what he's saying. Yes, okay, so you guys are saying Queen Maxima sounds like the dumbest name someone gave their dog. Yes, I agree, Emily. Queen Maxima. So, but you guys, know about the farmlands and everything else being taken over in that part of the world. So Queen Maxima undoubtedly has something to do with that. And you can tell she really looks very queen-like. So, I don't know. It might make a good couple with Tiny down here. So there's Tiny. And there's Maxima. Tiny and Maxima. Anyway, that was the last article I had pulled up on needtoknow.news. And let's see. Let's take a look at Revolver. We've got a few articles pulled up from here. Report. I keep saying this, but I really think it's going to happen. I hate to say it. Report. More are betting on Michelle Obama to be president than Biden. Or at least be the nominee, quote unquote. More bets are reportedly being placed on Michelle Obama winning the presidency than Biden, even though she isn't running yet. GB News reports that the Betfair exchange has seen 10.9% of the bets this year placed on Obama being the winner, while Biden has garnered 10.6%. It's not a huge difference, but still. In addition, Donald Trump's odds have shortened to 6-5, 45% chance, marking him as the favorite, while Biden is 2-1, 33% chance. More bets placed on Michelle Obama than Joe Biden to be the next U.S. president. Barry's fourth term is what it would be. I keep saying it. And many of y'all would say Michael Obama. Big Mike. And I have no idea and don't want to know. She is very manly looking. Yes, Doug the Matchmaker. That's funny. Yes, Tiny and Maxima. So who knows? But I do think that this is probably true. We've got more on that. I watched a Roger Stone report earlier today talking about this very thing, and he's been saying this for like 2 years now, that Michelle Obama, Big Mike, will be the nominee. He's convinced, and he is hardly ever wrong about these types of things. So, we'll see. I don't know. If there even is an election, a rigged election, it would probably be her, is my guess. And then if they can't jail Trump, then I don't know what's going to happen there. But California officials cooked up a plan to control how fast you drive. It's called a speed governor. Look at him. He's wringing his hands. Governor Newsom. And it's frightening. Democrats seem to have a talent for coming up with creative ways to micromanage our lives. Yeah, that's the whole purpose. That's why they're in power. The latest stroke of genius from California is a speed governor to control your driving. So what's a speed governor? Well, it's a device that will make sure that you cannot go more than 10 miles per hour over the speed limit. And it's San Francisco lawmakers who are championing this one. How reassuring it that in a city drowning in homelessness, with streets littered with unspeakable things, a drug nightmare, rampant shoplifting, spiraling crime, and businesses making a run for it, they're zeroing in on slightly speedy drivers as the big problem. It's because they're the white people who have the money. That's why. Clearly, going slightly over the speed limit is the major threat in Northern California. Yep. Apparently so. Anyway, they've got the speed governor that they're getting ready to introduce. And I'm not talking about Gavin Newsom. I mean, he may have done his share of speed too. I have no idea. But he looks like it in this photo. He looks like Dracula or something. Maybe it's the hair. I don't know. So this is on Revolver, if you guys want to check it out. And I'll link to this article and all the others in my Substack post, as I always do. Hopefully go out tomorrow afternoon at some point and try and do it the next day. Anyway, and then here's another DEI type of article. Talkies Magazine, diversity training, die in the air. I think that's what we're supposed to do. Either die in the air or die when the plane crashes. Articles by Steve Saylor says, as I might have mentioned now and then, there's much wrong about the 2020s, but it's also worth mentioning something right. We're living in the golden age of airliner safety. The last fatal crash of a commercial flight of American airline was way back in 2009. Could have been worse that year. Captain Sully Sullenberger adroitly ditched the Airbus into the Hudson River, saving all 155 lives. Yeah, that was amazing. And anyway, he's going on talking about DEI here. Says, so, as I predicted in 2008, after a moderate first term helped Barack Obama get reelected in 2012, in 2013, Obama let loose his people to pursue their agenda of diversity, equity, and inclusion. He has it backwards. Diversity, inclusion, and equity. Die. But it's die either way, right? So he's kind of blaming the Obama administration for this, and that I'm sure they were all for it. Don't get me wrong, but I thought that was kind of interesting that he's specifically pointing that out and offers some data on that, on this article. So yeah, and then this one, I saw this article and thought of my friend here. I think she's here. Mushi, are you here? Say hello in chat if you're here. This article's for you. Canary Islands collapsing under the strain of too many tourists descending on holiday hotspot. Thought that was sort of interesting. Experts are raising urgent warnings about the Canary Islands, stating that a massive increase in tourism was causing a potential collapse due to excessive urban development. Weird. Urban planning specialists in Spain are sounding the alarm over the Canary Islands, warning that the territory was on the brink of collapse due to the overwhelming influx of tourists. I don't know. I guess that's very possible. Says he expressed concerns, this guy, the spokesman for Ecologists in Action, expressed concerns stating the Canary Islands territory was more than overexploited. We had exceeded the carrying capacity of the territory by 7 times, resulting in a scenario of systematic collapse due to the urban development structure. You can see one of the crowded beaches here in the Canaries. So I thought that was a little strange that they're saying that tourism can collapse anything. But it's not really tourism, I guess, if people are moving there. That's not really tourism, I don't think. Anyway, that was an interesting article I found. And then, let's see, technocracy.news, a couple of headlines and little blurbs that we can read. How to tell if you're on a government extremism list. Oh, yeah, Mushi is here. People on the islands agree. Yeah, okay. Yeah. Pretty wild about the Canaries, which, of course, is where the big volcano happened back in 2021, September of 2021. Tenerife, right? Yeah, La Palma will collapse the Canary Islands. I don't know. It's possible. We've talked about that before on various Diamond Report and End Times Dates shows. All right, so how to tell if you're on a government extremism list, which I'm sure none of you are. For technocracy to get on with its science of social engineering, society everywhere, not just America, must be micromanaged to segregate all dissenters into a digital panopticon. When an individual becomes sufficiently odious, there are multiple options to legally erase them altogether. National Network of Fusion Centers. So that is one of the articles. I think most of these are membership based, so I don't know how much more information you can get on this if you go to technocracy.news, but that is one of the articles that's front and center at the moment. Destroying America, this is another one. United Nations budgets millions for U.S. bound migrants in 2024. Millions. Not to help people in this country, just help people get into this country and then sponge off of all the rest of us. Trilateral Commission figurehead Peter Sutherland, 1945 to 2018, should be jumping for joy in his grave. This is him pictured here, I guess. He spread illegal immigration as a way to destroy Europe, and the same policy was and is used against America. The Trilateral Commission has used the UN as a sledgehammer since 1974 when it adopted General Assembly Resolution 3201. Establishing the new International Economic Order. Some version of the New World Order. Yeah, Susan says, I'd love to see the technical definition of sufficiently odious. Yeah. Exactly. So anyway, that was the second article. Here's the third one. Transhumanists seek immortality by freezing their bodies after death. And I think, we were just talking about this guy, Sutherland. I'm sure Rothschilds and some of the others do this. They don't have to freeze their whole bodies, by the way. They can just freeze their heads. Oftentimes, that's what happens. They freeze their heads. Transhumanists seek immortality by freezing their bodies after death. Their transhumanism dream failed them in life, so they doubled down on death by ordering their bodies to be frozen in a final stab to cheat death. But the poor souls are already dead. There are several cryonics firms around the world, including Acor Life Extension Foundation in Scottsdale, Arizona, who will gladly take your money today to put your body in the eternal deep freeze. So yeah, so if you're looking to extend your life, quote unquote, extend your life, I guess you can give them a call and just look up their website. I'm sure it's just a mere few $1 million to do that. I don't know. I'm not exactly sure how it works. But yeah, I've heard that that's what some of these ultra rich people are doing. They can freeze their whole body, or if you're on the budget, if you have a budget, then you can just do your head. Yeah. Very strange, but I know people are doing that kind of stuff. Obama is not happy with Joe Biden, reportedly tells him to quit the race. Says another day, another senility episode from Joe Biden speaking in public. This is a video embedded here. I won't bother playing it. You guys are well aware of all of that. And things like that reportedly have Joe's former boss, Barack Obama, I would say current boss too, getting out his phone. The former president and other allies of Biden, the Bidens, have advised him to quit the 2024 race to save America and the Democrat Party. This is according to a report from Radar Online. Insiders snitched that tensions between the two presidents recently exploded after irate Obama rushed to a secret meeting and confronted Biden about his fading chances to fend off surging Republican candidate Trump in the upcoming November election. Incredibly, Joe seems almost oblivious to the lack of excitement about his campaign and cratering approval ratings. Recent polls show a scant 38% of Americans approve of his performance. Where are these 38%? I couldn't find anybody who likes what this guy's doing. With a whopping 58% holding a negative opinion of his work. Meanwhile, Trump, 77, has seized a lead in some national polls despite being under indictment, that doesn't matter, on 91 charges and openly declaring he wants to be a dictator. This is according to Obama, right? This is what he's saying. In desperation, sources said Obama bellowed at bumbling Biden to go on the attack and make sure trusted aides are constantly by his side on the campaign trail to keep them from committing the disastrous gaffes that have defined his presidency. The Obamas are convinced Joe's lost his grip. Yeah, as if he ever had one, right? An insider confided, he looks more feeble and clueless every day, and they know he's lost the confidence of the public, as if he ever had that. Most people understand and know that Biden is only the president through brazen election power. That's the only reason he got there to where he is now. And that he did not get 81 million votes, which is more than Obama even had, right? He might have gotten 81 million votes, but not from 81 million voters. Little detail there. So what I was going to mention by this, and I know you guys aren't surprised by any of this at all. However, what I've heard is that Joe and Jill, especially Jill, really like being in the White House, and they're not really planning on leaving. And I would point you to, what was it, last fall or summer? Last summer, I guess, whenever it was, that the chef died, right? Mysteriously. And turns out old Barack was there and might have even helped him. And then old Barack shows up a day or two later with bruises and cuts and stuff, whatever it was, all over his, he had bandages, I guess it was. Bandages all over his hands or fingers or something while he was playing golf. And what appeared to be a black eye. I wonder if he's going to, he's already got, theoretically, he may have had something to do with that guy, with the chef going missing. I'm just positing a possibility here. What if old Joe goes missing? What if Barack decides to, maybe he's in favor of putting Big Mike in? I don't know, just a thought. Would you totally rule out the possibility that he could do something like this? If he had anything to do with the chef being disposed of, is it really above him to do away with, you can blame it on anything. The press is just going to lap up any kind of information that Obama puts out. He is above the law, literally. He could go, and they wouldn't even report it. Not saying he will, but I'm saying it is possible. He could have him, just like, we know the body count is extremely long. We don't know really what the Obama body count is unless it's a short list, probably, compared to However, you just don't know. I wouldn't rule it out. If him and Jill decide they're going to stay put and fight, I think they probably have bit off more than they can chew. I hate to see the old guy. I don't like the old guy, believe me. But I would hate to see him be disposed of in any sort of, and I really don't put it past old Obama here. Wouldn't be hard to follow him up, old granddad. Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah, so anyway, just a thought, just putting it out there. And the only reason I even bring that up is because most of us are fairly certain that he had something to do with the chef that used to work for him dying, because it was very mysterious. And there were lots of reports about him being around when that happened. So who knows? So anyway, there is more info here on the Liberty Beacon on this particular article. LibertyBeacon.com is where this is, and then this one too. All right, so let's see. On Daily Crow, I found this. Rates of gender dysphoria have soared in every state over the past 5 years. The sharpest rises over those 5 years were seen in 3 Republican states, Virginia, Indiana, and Utah. So if you're wondering why your teenager or your grandkid or whatever is now suffering from gender dysphoria because they have no idea that they're a boy or a girl, however God made them, and now they think they're the opposite sex or they want to identify as the opposite sex, just have a look at this map. Percent changes in gender dysphoria diagnosis between 2018 and 2022. The state where I live is up 77%. Wow. So look at some of these other states, though. 193% in Utah. 274% in Virginia. 183% in Alaska. So obviously the propaganda campaign is working, unfortunately. All right, I thought that was pretty interesting perspective there, and thanks to Gareth Ike. He's David's son, and yeah, pretty good info. That the video is called "Free Speech, It's So Overrated." So true. So anyway, yeah, let's keep moving here. We've got quite a few articles to cover tonight, and we're only just a little ways in, so try and get through the. Oh, it's 11:11. Try and get through this as much as possible. So yes, you guys are here to experience another one of my 11:11s. I literally just looked at the clock. The fix is in. Trump goes to prison. This is on Armstrong Economics. I thought this was kind of interesting because it's Armstrong Economics talking about this. It's not just some, random alt media type of publication. The fix is in. Trump goes to prison. George Soros' son says Trump won't disappear unless he winds up in prison. Look at this goofball. I mean, speaking of the whole trans thing, I think he might be one of them. What do you think? Maybe it's the blue horn-rimmed glasses that give him away. Let me explain something very important. George Soros' son has come out and said that Trump would not go away unless he is in prison. I am not at liberty to say at this time, but the fix is in, and Trump will be imprisoned in the Washington, D.C. case. That's the plan. Soros has funded the case in Colorado to kick Trump off the ballot. This is a war for the very soul of the United States. I have had to look at these forecasts projected by the computer, and it's certainly not my aspiration in life. People keep telling me it's my destiny to bring independent forecasting up front, perhaps so, but I do not relish laying out these forecasts, for I wish I could prevent the outcome, but I cannot. No protest can be mustered to prevent this. We have to crash and burn. Only then will the blind finally see, and those who have understood these forecasts will get to perhaps spread the word. So it says they have done everything they possibly can to stop Trump, for they know he will do his best to prevent their agenda, yet unfortunately, the computer has warned that either side will not accept the 2024 election. They are outright pushing to put Trump in prison. The Attorney General has now come out pushing for a speedy trial in D.C. because they think throwing Trump in prison will be the only thing that will stop him. My deep concern is that we are approaching the 19th cycle of 8.6 from the American Civil War. This only adds to the rising tensions that will escalate into 2026. These people are so desperate to impose their totalitarian state that they refuse to back off. If they cannot imprison Trump, they will assassinate him. We are approaching the last 8.6 years in this 51.6 year cycle, and they will be the darkest days of our lives. Wow. That's some pretty strong words. Anyways, talking about Supreme Court and how that will be instrumental in putting Trump in prison. I'm not a Trump guy, but I do think that this guy's probably right about this. So we'll see. We'll see. We're going to be living it, right? Very soon. It's going to be an interesting year for sure. Muckraker, I thought this was kind of neat. They've done some pretty interesting video over the last few months about the mass migration. Apparently, they put a film together. It says first ever film of the entire mass migration trail, United States invasion route exposed. Muckraker report. This is on muckraker.com. I just like saying muckraker. Here's a video here. I don't know if this is the film or not. It says in 2023, nearly 250,000 illegal aliens enter the United States every month. Nearly all of these illegals follow the same mass migration trail that starts in Quito, Ecuador, and ends at the U.S. southern border. So we decided to follow the trail ourselves. Along the way, we discovered secret Chinese staging hotels, crossed through the world's deadliest jungle, embedded with an illegal alien caravan, rode the Mexican train of death, and finally were kidnapped by the Gulf cartel just hundreds of feet from the U.S. border. This exposes the entire illegal alien pipeline for what it is: United Nations weaponized migration agenda masquerading as an organic humanitarian crisis, which of course it's no crisis. It's creating a crisis, but it's not fixing anything. It's only creating more problems, just like they always do. This agenda directly benefits cartels and human smugglers, exposes the United States to incredible geopolitical threats, and may potentially usher in permanent one-party rule, which is another goal of theirs. The first stop along the route is Ecuador. U.S.-bound illegal aliens from all over the world first fly into the capital city, Quito, due to the country's easy entry requirements. From here, aliens begin making their way toward Colombia. In the Ecuadorian border town of Tulcan, dozens of government and non-government organizations offer aid and instructions on how to navigate the mass migration trail. This map, provided by the United Nations, shows all of the migration-related organizations in Tulcan. So this is a map here. Aliens receive aid in the form of legal assistance, food packages, healthcare, maps, and more. Some of this aid is incredibly bizarre. United Nations International Organization of Migration, also known as IOM, hands out pamphlets detailing how to put on a condom. So we won't go into that, but pretty wild. And then here's a film. They want to make sure all the illegals make it here safely. And then once they get here, they're going to start arming them soon, in my opinion. But, yeah. We'll see how that unfolds. If they don't arm them, they will certainly allow them to bring in arms. And that's already happening. So again, muckraker.com is where that is. We'll link to this, including the video on the Diamond Report Substack. If you're not on that list, you should jump on that list. It's totally free, and the link is in the upper right corner up there in the black box. diamonddisc.substack.com is where that is. And just put your email address in, and you'll get the list of all of the different articles, and hopefully most of the videos that I show tonight will also be linked from there, and you guys can check that out when I send that out tomorrow afternoon. I won't send it out in the morning. It will be later in the day, because what I have to do is, in order to prevent having to send multiple emails, I'll send out one email that has the final version of this show linked on the different platforms, Rumble, BitChute, Brighteon, and so forth. And I have to have the show edited, uploaded, processed, and links generated before I can even put together the email that goes out with all of the article links. So you see it's sort of a domino effect a little bit. I have to do one thing before I can do this other thing before I can send you guys the links. So that's why it's usually a little bit later in the day on hopefully Monday, and I'll send everything out, and of course the show will be posted on all the different platforms then. If you're on Rumble, the video technically could stay, but what I'll do is I like to tighten it up. I'm a video producer. I like things to be nice and tidy as much as possible, so I take out all of the some of the coughs and some of the pauses and things like that, even some of the boring articles and things like that. So then I'll post the tightened up version tomorrow on Brighteon and BitChute and Rumble and some various places like that, and we'll send the links out along with all the articles. So that's kind of what you're in for. If you're hanging out with Doug Diamond in the Diamond Report, that's kind of what you're in for. So my apologies. It doesn't stay up here. I just can't leave it up there. I'm too much of a perfectionist, I guess, in terms of the actual production part of the video. And then obviously it can't stay on there because of all this done in the Shammer from Istanbul Kadem talk about on YouTube. I don't really want that to happen again. I'm back up over 900 subscribers, so thank you guys very much on YouTube. So yeah, we're building back slowly. We're building back better, except we're doing it the right way, not with 6, 6, and 6. So Doug, you work so hard for us. Thank you, Susan. I appreciate that. Yeah, I try. So yeah, this next article I have pulled up is Town Hall, and it says the feds worked with banks to flag purchases of Bibles and extremist text. We kind of mentioned this earlier. I think this is really more of the same thing. It says, according to the House Subcommittee on the Weaponization of the Federal Government, which falls under the jurisdiction of the House Judiciary Committee, federal law enforcement agencies partnered with a number of financial institutions to flag transactions with the terms MAGA, Trump, and more. So if you're writing checks to anything that has to do with any of that, don't write it in the memo slot on your check. They also monitored transactions at stores like Cabela's and Bass Pro Shops. So apparently that is a conservative bastion of shopping if you shop at Cabela's or Bass Pro Shops. I didn't know that. I don't think I've ever been in either one. Anyway, it says other purchases linked to religious texts like Christian Bibles were flagged under the guise of preventing extremism. So if you go buy a Bible somewhere, you're probably on a list. Just so you know. I guess I'll take my chances with that one. The committee and select subcommittee have obtained documents indicating that following the January 6th, 2021, interesting date, FinCEN distributed materials to financial institutions that, among other things, outline the typologies of various persons of interest and provide financial institutions with suggested search terms and merchant category codes for identifying transactions on behalf of federal law enforcement. In other words, they're coming down hard on the January 6ers, and they're using some of this whole insurrection nonsense to find other MAGA and Trump supporting people and biblical, Bible-believing Christians. That's what they're doing here. All under the guise of the fake insurrection that was no more than a protest. And then they go to the Capitol and unlock the doors and let people walk through, and now they're charging literally everybody who's walked through there. They're coming to get you. If you were at Washington, D.C., anywhere on the grounds, on January the 6th, they are coming for you. I'm telling you. They will find you. The only way you probably have a prayer of not being found out is if you didn't have a cell phone. If you didn't have a cell phone, there's a good chance that they won't be able to find you. But they're tracking these things through your cell phone. Your cell phone is not your friend. And it's okay if you look at it and have a little bit of a glare when you look at your cell phone. I know I do. You know, I had to break down and get a stupid cell phone. I really hate that. I hated having to admit that. But when my mother had a stroke back in September, my wife and daughter basically told me if I wanted to keep living, I had to have a cell phone. So they literally went and bought me one, and they forced me to take it. So I've been begrudgingly using a cell phone only for communication purposes. Yeah, they pretty much made me do it. So and then of course I inherit, helping my mother, helping her with everything she's doing. She already had 2 cell phones, so now I went from 0 cell phones to 3. So I'm really kind of probably in the doghouse with you guys, but unfortunately I had to do it, being the good son, right? Well, I'm trying, but as soon as I can, I will certainly get rid of that stupid thing again. But I do not like having a cell phone, and I know many of you guys don't either. It's a necessary evil, unfortunately. But I only did it for my mother. That's the only reason. And, of course, I kind of like my wife, and I kind of like my daughter, too, and they would disown me if I don't have one. So, and they never let me forget it. So, anyways, I just wanted to let you guys know, and, just know that that's how they track you, though. Your cell phone is, whether it's on or off, it doesn't matter. Powered on or off, it's constantly pinging the tower nearest to you, and it's creating a geolocation of your position. It doesn't matter if you don't have the Bluetooth on. It doesn't matter if you don't have the Wi-Fi on. It doesn't matter if you don't have the GPS on. It doesn't matter. It's tracking you. If it's in your presence, they can find you. So if you were in DC and you had a cell phone on you, they will find you. The only thing you could do is perhaps get rid of your phone, change everything, and I don't know. I mean, I'm not sure, because pretty much any cell phone company is going to be able to give that information to the feds and track you down. Yes, even if it's shut off. That's right. Yep. Doesn't matter. So, yeah, they're a surveillance tool, and they have backdoors in them as well. So, they're not good news. Not good news at all. All right, so let's see here. Here's another article I thought was kind of interesting. Trump versus Michelle Obama, Big Mike, in 2024 U.S. elections, ? Reports say former First Lady could replace Joe Biden. So you're seeing, I only brought this up because you're seeing a lot of people talking about this now. So, something that I've been saying for a while. And I don't know. I'm not sure. I'm not entirely convinced this will happen, but it does make the most sense. So I think there's still a few months here where something else could play out. Again, if we have any kind of an election at all, it will be a rigged election. It will be heavily controlled, even though I think a landslide type of victory, in Trump's favor won't matter if they can somehow get rid of him, whether he's behind bars or they blow up his plane or whatever. Yeah, he looks good with purple hair. It's funny. So this is just another one of those articles that I've found, and there's more and more people talking about this. So they're not going to surprise anybody. The only thing that would surprise anybody is if India done away with. If you know what I mean. We were talking about that earlier. If old Barry decides he's going to get rid of Joe one way or the other, I don't know. I wouldn't put it past the guy personally. America's richest 1% and Ivy Leaguers say the rest of the country has too much personal freedom and want to ration food and electricity. A shocking poll finds. I'm not shocked. Elites want to save the planet by banning SUVs and jet plane vacations. Not their jet plane vacations, though, you see. They're much bigger fans of Joe Biden and the government than regular voters. This on Daily Mail. It says America's top earners have been blasted as wildly out of touch after polling showed their views differ sharply from regular voters on everything from climate change to personal liberties. A survey has found that top 1% earners and Ivy League graduates are much keener on banning and rationing cars and air travel in pursuit of climate targets than the rest of the country. You don't say. They also expressed an authoritarian streak. Nearly 6 in 10 members of the elite say there's too much personal freedom in the U.S., many times more than for ordinary voters. Yep, that makes sense. As I said earlier in the video that we played a little bit ago with Gareth Ike, free speech, it's overrated. I guess freedom is overrated too, according to these people. But they're not talking about limiting their freedoms. They only want to eliminate our freedoms. So, I know you guys know that, but it's interesting to see it all. Here's a guy here that apparently he's got a Jesus shirt on and Trump's name both. He's really committed some major sins according to the left. Anyway, do you approve of the job Biden is doing as president? The elite 1% say, yes, we love him, 84%. And then regular people, 44%. I think that's way high. It's probably more like 4%. Anyway, this is on Daily Mail, and we'll link to this article and all the others in the Substack tomorrow. I saw this and thought this was kind of interesting. I don't know if you guys know about this. 65 Ukrainian POWs killed in plane crash. What we know so far, a military aircraft carrying 65 Ukrainian POWs came down in Russia's Belgorod region, which that's where apparently one of the missiles or something hit not too long ago, killing all passengers on board. The Russian Il-76 heavy transport plane was carrying 65 captured Ukrainian military personnel when it crashed, which is 55 miles from the Ukraine border. The Russian Defense Ministry has claimed that the aircraft was brought down by Kiev forces. I tend to believe them. They shot down their own... Well, they shot down a Russian plane, but it was loaded with Ukrainians. Why would they do that? Well, that's kind of what this article is talking about. So there was 65 POWs that were Ukrainian military people who had been captured probably and or had turned themselves in to the Russians. And the Ukrainian military shoots the plane down. They're on record. Hal Turner's been talking about it forever. They are really into killing their own people. Their own people who are questioning any sort of the authorities. Just ask Gonzalo Lira, right? I know he's an American citizen, but he's gone now too. So if you question what they're doing, they kill you. So pretty wild. And this is definitely, I think, what happened. They probably knew exactly who was on that plane, at least to some degree, and they did away with them because they didn't want those people giving them any kind of information as far as the Russians go. They don't want any of the Ukrainian military who had been captured, quote unquote, and or turned themselves in. They have a lot of defectors from the Ukrainian military who are turning themselves in so that the Russians don't kill them and the Ukrainians don't kill them. They turn themselves in, and in this case, it looked like the Russians were sending them back, and of course the Kiev regime shoots them down and kills them all. Wow. So I don't know if you guys knew about that, but that just happened a few days ago. And let's see, we've got a couple more here. The Belgorod plane attack. Why did Ukraine shoot down an aircraft carrying dozens of its own soldiers? Kiev is now only fighting to prolong the life of the Zelensky regime. It's why it's doing stupid things. Well, I think they knew exactly what they're doing. I thought it was funny too that the Greg Reese video that we watched at the beginning of this broadcast tonight, talking about Victoria Nuland and so forth, mentioned he said Volodymyr Zelensky, which put me in mind of what is the guy's name in Harry Potter? Voldemort. So I'm going to start calling him Voldemort Zelensky. He's the bad guy in Harry Potter. Anyway, I think they knew exactly what they were doing. Old Voldemort here is just an actor, but I don't know. He may know a little bit more than what most people think. U.S. servicemen killed in Jordan attack aftermath. Live updates. President Biden believes that radical Iran-backed militant groups operating in Syria and Iraq are responsible, which we covered this earlier, but this is another article here on RT. Apparently was Iraq-based people, not Iran-based people that caused this. So U.S. servicemen killed in Jordan attack aftermath. That's what this article is on RT. Which, by the way, if you post any RT links on Facebook, you usually get a warning that it's Russian propaganda or something like that. So just be careful. Anyway, this is on Revolver. Diversity strikes again. Wheel falls off Delta plane. I mentioned this earlier. As it taxied down the runway. The skies aren't so friendly these days. Turn around, there's another airline mess in the headlines. Tech glitches, pilots in distress mid-flight, transgender CEOs, doors coming loose and off, missing bolts and screws, and passengers duking it out in the aisles. But wait, it gets wilder. We just heard about this latest doozy. A Delta flight was gearing up to take off from Atlanta and was heading down the runway when all of a sudden the darn wheel fell off and rolled away. What on earth is happening, folks? It really makes you want to jump on a plane and jet off, doesn't it? Well, no, not really. Delta's airplane wheel came off and rolled down the runway while the plane was getting ready to take off at the Atlanta airport. So, yep. So, a related article, but I think this is part of the whole thing, the whole DEI thing, DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion. Yeah. So anyway, that is on Revolver, and let's see here. Here's a Substack. Let's take a look at this. I thought this was kind of interesting. You guys may have seen this, but it kind of goes a direction I wasn't necessarily thinking it might. But we've talked about this before as far as the underground tunnels. I think I mentioned this last week. Under the Chabad, or however you say it, in New York City. It's really only barely touched on in this video, and in fact, it goes into DUMBs and talking about deep underground military bases and Phil Schneider and so forth. So let's take a look at this Reese report. I thought it was kind of interesting. See what you guys think. Now we're getting into it, aren't we? Man, that one covered a few different little interesting stories there. Shape-shifting, DUMBs, space aliens who are actually not space aliens, but demonic entities. You name it. Man. And I like how Greg said that Phil Schneider's death was very mysterious. No, he was murdered. He was tortured and murdered. I've seen some pictures of that. You guys may have seen them as well. They're out there. So the poor guy, I felt sorry for him. I tend to believe him, though. I think a lot of what Phil Schneider said was absolutely 100% true. As far as the things he described, I don't think it was alien technology as far as alien from, space alien type thing. I think it was demonic. And, he's an interesting character, that's for sure. So I thought that article or that video was pretty interesting. There is actually more article here on this if you want to go back and take a look. But this is on Greg Reese's Substack. So definitely join that if you're not already on there. You can sign up for free and get those reports. So, yeah, it was pretty wild. Bongino says they're going to get this guy hurt. Secret Service agents ordered to not wear red ties because President Trump wears red ties. Former Secret Service agent Dan Bongino revealed on his podcast Friday that the Secret Service has ordered agents to not wear red ties. The order came down last week after an agent guarding Trump was photographed sporting a similarly colored red tie as he took the stage at a campaign rally in New Hampshire. Bongino warned they're going to get this guy hurt. And there he is there right here. Here's the red tie guy right here. So you can't wear a red tie now. Bongino said the email edict went out after the photo of the agent wearing a red tie while guarding Trump was published in The Guardian last Sunday, right here. Said agents are PO'd about the tie order. Bongino said Trump needs to clean out Secret Service management when he returns to the White House next year, citing the agency's tanking of the White House cocaine investigation last year. Yes, but see, you can't incriminate. Yeah, but they're above the law. Bongino said Trump's threat level is through the roof. He urged Trump to make some calls saying, if this is what they're worried about, you're going to get hurt. So, total craziness. Can't wear a red tie if you are a Secret Service agent. Pretty wild. Thought that was kind of interesting. Gateway Pundit is where that was. Now, this one is apparently being fact-checked by Snopes. So if you want, that's our humorous word for the day. I know you guys in chat are laughing about bejerkness. But bejerkness is the guy that was mentioned in that video we just watched. But funnier than bejerkness is anything Snopes does, in my opinion. Left-wing fact-checker Snopes forced to admit Biden was wearing his hard hat backwards after being flooded with comments. So here's a picture of Biden with his hard hat on backwards. What a total dork. This week, we pointed out that Biden was visiting Wisconsin. He was photographed wearing a hard hat backwards. The left-wing fact-checker site Snopes defended Biden, of course, claiming that the hard hat was not on backwards. No, it's just his head that's on backwards. Says Snopes sets itself on fire with fact-check of Biden wearing a hard hat backwards. Did Snopes just engage in the most dishonest fact-check of all time? That may be a little strong given how awful the fact-checking industry is, but their latest work has to be up there. The setup, which was reported by Red State on Friday, involves Biden wearing a hard hat backwards while trying to pander to union workers in Wisconsin. The photo itself is comical and was only a small part of the senility displayed during his trip. Yes, it's pretty much every single thing he says, single thing he does. Total ridiculous. Let's see here. It says the picture received the appropriate amount of ribbing from people online. I mean, it is objectively funny that while trying to project himself as working class, Biden managed to screw up wearing a hard hat. Snopes couldn't just leave well enough alone, though. One of their fact checkers sprung into action to deliver one of the dumbest actually moments in recent political history. It's so bad that some thought it was fake, but it's real. And then here's the it's real. Here's the links right here. Twitter pictures about the article. Snopes got roasted on Twitter X over this. Snopes, this is one of the tweets. Snopes fact-checked, Biden wore his hard hat backwards is misinformation. Who are you going to believe, Snopes or your lying eyes? So it says it's absolutely amazing that they went to bat for Biden over something so obvious. How many other times have they been wrong? Well, pretty much every time. So here he is with his hard hat on backwards, or else it's on forwards and his head's on backwards. I kind of maintain that. But it put me in mind, if Trump is really smart, he will do what Ronald Reagan did in, I forget what, it must have been the 84 campaign with Dukakis. You guys remember Dukakis and the army hat, the tank shot? You guys remember that? Here it is. To jog your memory. This right here is a lot of people who look at this picture and look back on history. Of course, Reagan was rolling by that point. I think a lot of people loved what he was doing. But many people say this right here, this picture absolutely did Mike Dukakis in. And everybody saw it and realized, we want this guy to be our commander-in-chief? And so you have Dukakis, Biden. Dukakis, Biden. Is there any difference? Not really. Anyway, technically he is the commander-in-chief, I suppose, but only through brazen election fraud and cheating. But it is funny. It's that Mike Dukakis moment for sure. So hopefully Trump will use that to his benefit. Again, I'm not really a Trump guy at all. I just I think that you have to support somebody that they hate so much. And I'm not really. Trump's got so many problems with the injections and everything else, Operation Warp Speed, and all this stuff that he's done wrong. But man, they sure hate him. They really do. So it is interesting, and definitely a Michael Dukakis type of moment for old Joe there. Anyways, and then I saw this and thought you guys might be interested. There's still people researching what happened to Amelia Earhart. Plane-shaped sonar image may be vital clue in Amelia Earhart mystery, adventurer says. This is an article from just yesterday. Has long-lost Amelia Earhart's plane finally been found? For dozens of explorers, Amelia Earhart is the one who got away, seemingly permanently. However, a commercial real estate investor from Charleston believes he might have finally found a vital piece of the 87-year-old puzzle. The pioneering female aviator, household name at the time, disappeared when her flight navigator was on what was set to be a record-setting trip around the world in 1937. Despite many attempts and millions of dollars spent over 9 decades, neither Earhart's remains nor the wreckage of her plane have ever been definitively located. But Tony Romeo, a pilot and former U.S. Air Force intelligence officer who sold his commercial properties to pay for his search, told the Wall Street Journal he thinks he found part of Amelia Earhart's plane resting on the ocean floor. Romeo says that his sonar image of an aircraft-shaped object in the Pacific Ocean may well be Earhart's Lockheed 10E Electra. And experts who have viewed the image say it's worth investigating. This may be the most exciting thing I'll ever do in my life, he says. I feel like a 10-year-old going on a treasure hunt. And then there's a picture, and then it says she was the first woman to fly solo, nonstop across the continental U.S. and Atlantic Ocean, as well as the first person to fly alone over the Pacific from Hawaii to the mainland. for her to go missing was just unthinkable. Imagine Taylor Swift just disappearing today. He's comparing Taylor Swift and Amelia Earhart. So he's obviously got his priorities out of whack a little bit there. Romeo and two of his brothers, all pilots, felt they would have better luck funding Earhart than a slew of past adventurers, many of whom were sailors. Always felt the group of pilots were the ones that were going to solve this, not the mariners. So anyway, it talks about what they found. They drew up and searched an area based on where they thought the Earhart was most likely to have crashed. Romeo spent $11 million to fund the trip and the high-tech gear. Wow. He's all in, I think. I mean, why didn't they just call up Taylor Swift? She could have written him a check. Says the key to the search was the underwater Hugin drone. His 16-person expedition launched in early September from Kiribati, a port near Howland Island, aboard a research vessel. The team's unmanned submersible scanned 5,200 square miles of ocean floor, and after about a month, it captured a blurry image of an airplane-like object. I guess this is it. That doesn't look like an airplane to me. 5,000 meters beneath the surface within 100 miles of Howland Island. However, the Earhart hunters didn't find the intriguing drone image until 3 months into their trip, and by then it wasn't feasible to backtrack. So apparently he's planning to go back and have another look at it and try and find the numbers on the tail of the plane. That was in maybe a different follow-up type of article that I saw earlier. So kind of interesting. Thought you guys would be interested in that as well. Yeah, she vanished, and maybe this guy's found her plane. Who knows? Pretty wild. New York Post is where that was. Crazy Nikki Haley says she's staying in the presidential race until at least March. She is not going anywhere, folks. So the jokes can continue. Feel free to keep making fun of her. Despite having virtually zero chance of beating Trump in the Republican primary, neoconservative presidential candidate Nikki Haley is vowing to stay in the race until at least Super Tuesday, when 16 states vote. It's March 5th. Haley discussed her plan to refuse to go away during an interview with NBC's Meet the Depressed on Sunday. Yes or no? Are you in this race through the convention beyond Super Tuesday? Yes or no? NBC's Kristen Welker asked. Haley committed to staying in the race until Super Tuesday, but not necessarily until the convention. As long as I keep growing per state, I am in this race. So she's still getting plenty of George Soros funding to stay in the race and plenty of Democrat voter funding to stay in the race. And I just couldn't help it. You guys probably know that I am, many of you guys know that I am a Prince fan, longtime Prince fan. Every time I see this crazy woman's name, I think of the Prince song, Darling Nikki. If you don't know what Darling Nikki is, you should. This is the Wikipedia info about Darling Nikki, who that's what I'm gonna call her. The song tells the story of a sex fiend named Nikki who seduces the singer in the song. And you guys have probably followed some of the stories about old Nikki, Darling Nikki. So I'll leave that to you guys to make up your own joke. But yes, definitely reminds me of that. And you guys can draw your own conclusions. Feel free. All right, information liberation. Bill Maher attacks October 7th deniers and says everyone saw Hamas commit mass rape and behead babies. Everyone saw that. He didn't ask me. Did he ask you guys? Everyone saw him do that. So the October 7th deniers. I'm not saying anything, that bad stuff didn't happen. I definitely think it did. But we already know, they've already admitted that the IDF did a lot of the killing themselves. They shot their own people for whatever reason. But beyond that, who knows? But Bill Maher says you're an October 7th denier and that everyone saw Hamas commit mass rape and behead babies. I don't know. He didn't ask me, though. Fox News, Border Patrol has no plans to remove Texas razor wire. Another article, Republicans gear up for new civil war while Governor Abbott is in India working on outsourcing all their jobs. So, okay, this is a little wrinkle I was kind of talking about earlier with the whole thing with Abbott. I think he's trying to be FDR or something in a wheelchair. He needs a little lap blanket right there. Showdown, Biden regime orders Texas to hand over control of border to feds by Friday. This is on Information and Liberation as well. Biden regime's giving Abbott until Friday to hand back control of the border to the federal government or face the consequences. So there's all that stuff. But as we scroll down here, and then here's the 25 states that we talked about earlier. 25 Republican governors have now issued a joint statement in support of Texas in the border dispute with the Biden administration. So Tennessee's in the red here, in the club, I guess, right? It's all the red states, except for New Hampshire. Kind of interesting to see who's standing with Texas and who's not. But, is it a ruse? Possibly. Because if you go into it a little bit further here, does Greg Abbott think the Indian outsourcing companies he's helping expand in Texas are doing so to benefit Texans? The $1.4 billion, quote, investment is really about helping offshore U.S. jobs to India while replacing Texans with cheap foreign labor. But the invasion at the border, see how that works? But the invasion at the border, yeah. So is there other things at work here, other things at play? All is not necessarily how it seems or what it looks like on the surface. So I would just encourage you guys to keep digging, because Abbott has been on the wrong side of many, many things. And I don't trust him. I know you guys probably don't either, but, yes. But the border. But he's been busing migrants to New York City, so further into the country, instead of sending them back to Mexico. He's been making a point, and I get it, sending the migrants to New York City definitely puts the hurt on, makes the people in New York or Chicago or wherever feel like a border state, just like Texas. I get it. I understand that on the surface, but he's also spending more money and sending them deeper into the U.S. with no hope of them going back. So, yeah, you got to question these things for sure. And is this whole India deal part of the distraction? So my question here is, I'm wondering if this whole thing with the border came up while he was in India. I sort of suspect that may be the case. Yeah, here. Though Republicans are gearing up for a new civil war, Abbott is currently in India working on outsourcing their jobs. He's currently there. Another great day in New Delhi. So this is him, yeah, January 25th. So literally 4 days ago when all this was blowing up. He was in India. So just remember that. Again, things aren't always as they seem. There's probably some other reason that all this came up right now. President Biden pauses approval of liquid natural gas exports because of, quote, climate concerns, and totally not because he's trying to economically sanction Texas. No, not at all. So I thought this article on Not the Beak sort of proves the point that, Biden's doing what he's doing for an obvious reason. On Friday, hours after Biden's deadline for Texas to remove their National Guard troops from the border expired, fake president decided to take action that would put a pause on liquid natural gas exports, because of climate change, nothing to do with the fact that it disproportionately hurts Texas. He can't even put out a statement about LNG without taking a pot shot at MAGA Republicans. So this was his statement. This is the statement that was put out in his name, I should say that. His administration will take a hard look at the impacts of LNG exports and energy costs during the period during this period, as well as America's energy security and our environment. This pause on new LNG approvals sees the climate crisis for what it is, the existential threat of our time. Natural gas, apparently. He said, while MAGA Republicans willfully deny the urgency of the climate crisis, condemning the American people to a dangerous future, my administration will not be complacent. We will not cede to special interests. His administration is entirely special interests. So yeah, good one. Anyway, yeah. More here on this Not to Be article. It's totally not, because he's trying to economically sanction Texas like that. Let's see what the 2008 version of Joe Biden has to say about the border. Remember when liberals had at least somewhat of a backbone when it came to illegal aliens freely crossing our southern border? Well, this is Joe Biden on illegal immigration when he was running for president in 2008.
It makes sense that no great nation can be in a position where they can't control their borders. It matters how you control your borders, not just for immigration, but it matters for drugs, terror, a whole range of other things. Here's the conclusion I come up with, and it's sort of in equal parts. We have to, and I had been arguing for, when I'm back in my days as chairman of the Judiciary Committee and straight through as the leader of the Foreign Relations Committee, I've been arguing for the need to put more protection at our borders, meaning that you have more border guards. This president, refusing to add the number of border guards, now said he has to send the National Guard down. He vetoed. He was against adding the number of border guards. I only can suggest the reason he was is because he needed that money for his tax cuts that were unnecessary. I'm not being facetious. I'm being serious. Again, show me what you value. He had put a higher value on tax cuts for the wealthy than he did on protecting the border. And all of a sudden, the public responds, and now he says, now we got to send the National Guard down there that's already overstretched by God knows how much. You know the units going in and out of your own state, going to Iraq and to Afghanistan. So I think what you have to do is you have to have a significant increase in the security at the border, including limited elements where you actually have a fence. Not a fence 3,000 miles like these folks are talking about, but you've got to, there are certain places people can go over and under a fence, but you can't take 100 kilos of cocaine over and under a fence. And what you do when you have limited places where fences are in populated areas, you force these drug dealers and others around, making it easier to apprehend because there's fewer places to come through. So I think the combination of virtual fencing, some fencing, additional border patrol is important.
Yeah, it's important. So says Joe Biden, the real Joe Biden from 2008. That's before the fake imposter Joe Biden took over his body. And Jennifer Aniston is saying, mm-hmm. I thought that was pretty funny, her nodding. It matters how you control your borders, not just for immigration, but it matters for drugs, terror, and a whole range of other things, like child trafficking. It matters. Doesn't it, Joe? Well, you used to think so. At least some version of you used to think so. Here's Obama in 2005. So this is back when he was senator, saying essentially the same thing. We all agree on the need to better secure the border. We simply cannot allow people to pour into the United States undetected, undocumented, unchecked, and circumventing the line of people who are waiting lawfully. As a bonus, Clinton in 1995. Bill Clinton confirmed the issue of illegal immigrants. Today, Joe Biden administration making it real easy for them to get into the country. And Batman says, interesting. So, yeah, nottobe.com is where this one is. And again, we'll link to this one and all of the other articles in the Substack post. So yet again, we got these crazy climate radicals. Perps throw soup on the Mona Lisa and try and get people to care about the weather, which I think people should care about the weather. But the geoengineered weather, not the climate the climate change agenda from King Charles on down. Breaking: climate radicals throw soup on Mona Lisa. What did Mona Lisa ever do to them? I'm guessing that it's probably protected by like bulletproof glass and all that stuff. Here's a little dude here. I'm helping. Weather is scary, and he's throwing chicken noodle soup on there too. They're doing this in a bid to make you care about their cause. Let's take a poll. Does throwing soup on priceless art make you like or hate their cause more? Oh, ask me. I mean, I care about the climate probably more than a lot of people even bother to even think about it. But I don't support people throwing soup on the Mona Lisa. I don't know about you guys. Da Vinci would not like it either, being how it is it's a picture of him as a woman. Did you guys know that? Da Vinci, who painted the Mona Lisa, painted himself as a woman. That's why there's no record ever found of who Mona Lisa even was, because Mona Lisa didn't exist. It was Leonardo da Vinci as a woman. It's been scientifically examined and compared to his face. So computer details of like the measurements of the length of the nose and the width of the eyes and all these different things compared directly to paintings of Leonardo himself that he did of himself compared to the Mona Lisa. And Lisa is Da Vinci. So anyway, I still think that he doesn't deserve soup to have thrown on him, even if he is doing his best trans impersonation. His trans impersonation. He's a woman. So what better time for that to come out, right? So you think, says, yo, I think this is my favorite video on the internet right now. Check out what happens to this dude who tries to lay the wood on a giant snowman. He's going to tackle this snowman. And I think in order really for you to be able to get this in its full glory, we need to go full screen on this, because you're not going to believe what happens to this guy. And it's well worth your time to watch this. So check this out. Here it is. Bro thought he caught the snowman lacking. Ready? Here we go.
Let's go, Big Sal. You on the mission, Big Sal. Let's go, Big Sal. You on the mission, Big Sal. Let's go, Big Sal. Go tackle that, Sal. Go tackle that, Sal.
I told you it was good. I told you. Here, let me back it up here one more time here. Let's see the tackle.
Yeah.
I think the snowman got the better of him. What do you think? Pretty wild. Pretty wild. That is one rock solid snowman. Bro got lit up. All right, anyway, that was the last one I had for you on Not the Bee. And a couple more articles. I think we're about ready to wrap it up. We got, it's 12:16. It's kind of getting late. So watch, barely able to speak. Biden calls Trump the sitting president. Another gaffe. During an appearance in South Carolina this weekend, Joe Biden appeared frail and could barely speak, slurring every other word and at one point referring to Trump as the sitting president. The decipherable words that came out of Biden's mouth were, "Did you see what he recently said about ... He wants to see the economy crash this year, a sitting president." So Biden thinks Trump is the sitting president. Well, technically he probably is, but he's not. So he was officially voted in, I think, but then of course Biden ended up with the votes, right? The 81 million votes, but not 81 million voters, like I said earlier. Two classic movies are getting diverse remakes that no one wants. But Hollywood is out of ideas, so they're going to get it anyway. This is the perfect time to switch the characters. So they're going to switch the characters and make it DEI compliant. Wizard of Oz and It's a Wonderful Life. They're about to be remade for the sake of diversity, according to a director and writer currently working on the scripts. Why don't you people just say no? Do you have to accept everything that every offer, every time the phone rings, every time the email comes in? Variety reports that Kenya Barris, creator of the show Black-ish, wants to give the 1939 Judy Garland tale, as well as the 1946 Jimmy Stewart Christmas classic, a makeover, which will involve telling the stories from a different point of view with diverse characters. Good idea. And exactly no one will go see them. I can tell you now that no one will see them. So you can't fix cinema that's not broken, right? I know there's a lot of people that have issues with Wizard of Oz, but it was very well done for its time. And It's a Wonderful Life is personally one of my favorite movies. But they're going to wreck them, just like they always do. So get ready. Vaccine impact. Christian myths. The Bible does not teach that it is required for believers in Jesus to, quote, join a church. So this is an article on vaccine impact. All wars are orchestrated by the satanic Jewish bankers. That sounds awfully anti-Semitic. I don't know. You probably shouldn't read those words. You might be called anti-Semitic. I know you're afraid. Mother who was sexually trafficked by Epstein pedophilia network seeks justice for her daughter who was medically kidnapped. How about that video earlier with the woman saying that Epstein shapeshifted in front of her? That is crazy. Maybe that's why he didn't die in prison. Maybe he was never in prison. Maybe he shapeshifted and got out of there. He's on the beach somewhere. I still think, though, that if Epstein was actually alive, he would be right back at it again, doing it again. Of course, if he's non-human, I guess it's a moot point. But I don't know. Anyway, that's on vaccine impact. And then GeoWatch for this week. Global Alert News, January 27th. Chemical flash freezes, followed by flash flooding in the middle of winter. What's wrong with this picture? And what's coming after the relatively warm winter rains? We've had lots of rain around here. I don't know about you guys. You guys had rain? More chemical ice nucleation, cloud seeding, ice storms are currently scheduled, and it is scheduled. On the wider horizon, wars and rumors of wars. The global conflict will be the final card played by the power structure. Will the global conflict be the final card played by the power structure? Probably so. A supercomputer predicts that 25% of life on Earth will soon be extinct. Does this seemingly dire estimation actually fall far short of how bad it already is and how much worse it will be very soon? Will the vast majority remain completely asleep at the wheel until the moment of impact? Unfortunately, probably so, Mr. Dane. But that is on geoengineeringwatch.org. Feel free to take a look at that. And if you haven't already listened to it, it's embedded there. And I think I mentioned before, he's also on, we put these same shows up on Spotify, so it's available there and in many other places. It's on Rumble and BitChute too. So yeah, feel free to take a look at that. Listen to this week's Global Alert News if you have missed it. And then, let's see, Israel 365 News. I usually mention this website only because I like seeing what they're talking about. I didn't really see anything on this site that jumped out at me, but it reminded me that this is another site that I should probably mention because I'm on their newsletter list, have been for a while. I like to try and keep an eye on what they're doing and saying about the soon-to-come Third Temple. There's an article here on templeinstitute.org about the 10th red heifer, which would be the next one. And the 10th red heifer will be prepared by the Messiah, the Moshiach. And they aren't talking about Jesus Christ. You see, they're talking about their Messiah, who we've talked about many, many times on this program. I believe I know who it is, and we've talked about it at length for the last couple 2-3 years. So yeah, anyway, this is an article about the red heifers, and one thing I was going to mention was that I'm on their newsletter list, and often what they embed on the newsletter list that they put in there are Facebook links, and I know many of you guys aren't on Facebook at all. However, you can probably see this without actually being members of Facebook, like having Facebook accounts, because these are public. They're public posts. And just 12 hours ago, there was a post here: red heifers thriving in Israel. Recently, a friend visited the red heifers, which are being raised here in Israel, and shared with us this photo. They look healthy and happy, but we have no update on their halachic status, whether or not they are still eligible candidates for providing and purifying ashes of the red heifer. That's what they're all about. But they're saying that it will be the Messiah who will take care of that little detail for him, you see. And if you don't know, obviously, as Christian believers, we think and believe that Jesus Christ died for our sins individually. He died for us. He died for each one of us. We choose that. We choose to believe that. And we are, in fact, transformed by that knowledge, right? Well, with the Jews, it's the people as an entire body. So they don't see their redemption individually. They see it as an overall for all of them. So the red heifer being sacrificed would be for all Jews, right? Whether or not they even want it, I guess. So that's why it's important. And a lot of people think that the third temple will need to be built by the time this happens. I don't know if that needs to happen or not. I'm not real clear on that. I think that they do need the altar, but they've been working on a lot of this stuff. And much of what the Temple Institute website is about here is detailing exactly where they are in the process of creating the plans to build the temple. So that's what this is about. That's why I pulled it up. And I wanted to show you guys this website and then also the Facebook page, which seems to be where they put most of their posts about what's going on. So if you want to keep up with what's happening with the third temple, I believe that the Temple Institute will be instrumental in the building of the third temple when that happens, which I personally think will probably happen in the next few years. So, and we've gone into that at great length before. However, it is there if you're interested. So, U.S. debt clock is something we've been looking at, and I like to see what's in the secret window. So, you guys ready to see the secret window for this week or for today? Because it changes multiple times per week. So, they're talking about the old money and the new money. The old money, the United States Federal Reserve System, perpetual debt creation. Has a picture of Woodrow Wilson because he's the one that helped put that into place. The United Racketeers is what it says. Not federal note, no reserves, legal plunder. Not legal tender, but legal plunder. Thomas X. See, there's the there's the Thomas X thing that we mentioned before. It seems to be a reference to the Gospel of Thomas, and it's the 10th chapter in the Gospel of Thomas, apparently. 100 IOUs is what this one is. Currency $100 deflating. Bond/debt $100. Wealth transfer to the 1%. It's got the pyramid. And then interest 3% to 20%. Unfunded and unpayable. So I like that. It's got all the details of the old money. Hopefully you guys can see the new money. Well, here I'll just turn the let me turn the chat off for just a second. And then you can see the picture a little bit better. We'll turn it back on. Here's the new money. Asset-based wealth creation. USA Treasury certificate. Notice whose picture's on it. Who's no longer with us. And a lot of people think that's one of the reasons they killed him. Debt-free payable to the bearer on demand. Debt-free currency. 100. It's got Kennedy's likeness on it. And says 100, and then it's got the this little tree of some of the various options here down below. So, kind of interesting. That is the U.S. debt clock secret window. That's not so secret, and I've mentioned that multiple times. I decided to kind of make it a segment here on the Diamond Report and just mention it because I don't know how many of you guys bother to take time and go look. I think it's kind of interesting. Oftentimes they have little biblical excerpts on there. Kind of neat. Kind of cool. So, okay, well, I think we've reached the end of the articles. Here's the Diamond Report store, and the address for that is shop.thediamond.report, which is in the black box in the upper right corner. I'm not being racist by mentioning that it's in the black box, but it is there. If you're so inclined, take a look there. You can help fund what I'm doing here with the show. Notice there were no commercials in the show, and I like to keep it that way. I don't want any sponsors. So if you're a sponsor and you're thinking about contacting me, don't bother. I'm really not interested, and I'm funding this out of my own funds, out of my own pocket. What I wanted to do, though, was just mention that one way to support this show is to go buy a shirt or a mug or a hat or something. There's some fun items in there in the Diamond Report store. So that's one way to support the show, and I definitely appreciate that. You guys who have bought a few things here and there, and I've had some really good comments on the quality of the products. And I've got a couple things here with me. I'll just show them on camera. This is my music company, Diamond Disc Audio. This is the 15-ounce mug is what that is. So that's that. And then here's a water bottle that I keep here on my table. End Times Dates water bottle. All the products are made really well. I've got several shirts as well. Maybe I'll wear a shirt next time. So there's various things here you can take a look at if you're interested in supporting what I'm doing. Conspiracy Analyst hats, Diamond Report mugs, End Times Dates mugs, and water bottles, and what else? Mouse pads. This is a ginormous mouse pad. You can see how big it is. You can see how big, just compared to the keyboard. Really big one. This is another one that's smaller than that, but it's still rather large. And I guess if you have really big mice, you might want one. And then here is some different laptop sleeves as well. So there's some different ways you can support what I'm doing, and note that Substack is a really good way to do that as well. If you don't want to buy any products, totally understand. Substack is a way you can sign up for free and be on the email list, but there's also a way you can, you can get in there and pay X amount of dollars per month from $5 a month and up. So thank you guys for all the people who have contributed, either one time or ongoing in a monthly type of situation. I definitely appreciate you guys very much for doing that and helping me fund this, because keep in mind, I'm spending tons and tons of time putting these shows together and uploading them and sharing them everywhere. And so one of the best ways you can help me is to share the show. Put it out there to friends and family, and help me get the word out with the show, because it's definitely grassroots around here. We don't have any major sponsors or donors or anything. So, we are not BlackRock funded for sure. We are not George Soros funded. So it's all coming out of my pocket and yours. So thank you guys for helping with this show. I definitely appreciate that very much. Susan says wanted some of those coffee mugs. Oh well, thanks. Yeah. If you wanted to get one, I think they're, I've said before, and I still kind of maintain they're a little more expensive than if it was me just selling it directly to you, but they don't exist until you order one and then they're printed and shipped to you. It's called print on demand. So because of that, they're priced a little bit higher than I want, but that's only because they don't really exist. There's not like boxes of them sitting out in my garage and I'm mailing you one. If that were the case, I could sell them to you for cheap. But they're not that way at all. They don't exist. They're just plain. They're just if you look at it, they're just plain white, and then they do the printing right on the mug, and then wipe off all the fingerprints and box it up real good and ship it to you. So that's kind of how it works. And they charge me for the mug, and then I charge you, going through my Stripe thing, through the store. So that's kind of how that works. So I end up making a couple bucks on it is all. But yeah, thanks you guys for any of those types of things that you want to order. You definitely can sign up on the Diamond Report. And if you want to do any sort of monthly giving, that I certainly would appreciate that. But again, no pressure. It is there for anybody who wants to do those sorts of things. So, and then she says, oh no, Doug, I just went and ordered merchandise because I wanted to donate, but also wanted some merchandise or just donate to. Well, thanks, Susan. Yeah, I think the products are pretty good. Hopefully you won't be disappointed. If you guys ever have any issues with any of the products that you order from the store, certainly let me know. Obviously I can't buy one of everything. But I bought several things. I bought several of the shirts, and they're all really good quality. And the water bottle and the mug and the mouse pad and I don't know, several other things. And they all seem like they're really well made. And I've added a few new products back in December. A couple of them they're at the top of the store there if you want to take a look. But yeah, thanks you guys. Certainly appreciate it. I guess we'll do this again next Sunday night. It's pushing 1 a.m. here. But let's see. Next Sunday night would be the 4th, February the 4th. So yeah, we are already a 12th of the way through the year. It's pretty amazing. Emily says she loves her sweatshirt. It's so comfy. Good. Glad to hear that. So let's see. We've got a couple more videos here, and I think I will save the David Icke one for the upload. So if you guys want to see that, it's pretty amazing information, and it's sort of an I told you so, kind of like what someone was saying there in chat earlier, as far as what he's talking about with relation with as far as the book thing goes, and we kind of covered that before, but it is really good information. If you guys want to see that, it'll be in the upload. In the meantime, we've got one more short little video here. This is actually a Biden video. It's called "Old Yeller's Hatred for Americans Will Be His Undoing." So we'll close with that, and I think that's a pretty good one. It's the John Bound report. So feel free to let me know what you guys think. Feel free to leave comments and or questions on any of the videos, on any of the video platforms. You can do so on Rumble. You can do so on BitChute and Brighteon. It's a little harder, I think, but you can on Facebook too. You guys know the routine. Yeah. Well, anyway, I hope you guys have a very blessed week, and reach out to me with any kind of questions and comments. Certainly appreciate that, and we'll wrap it up for tonight, and we'll watch this last video together. And then we'll call it a night. Hope you guys have a pleasant evening and or morning wherever you guys are. And you're welcome. People saying thanks in chat. So yeah, you guys are welcome. And I enjoy doing this show very much and want to keep going. So yeah, again, no sponsors. We're just trying to keep plugging away. And certainly appreciate your sharing of the show. Most importantly, though, share Jesus Christ. He's the reason I'm doing this. And I don't know what you guys are doing each and every day, but definitely try and remember Jesus. Try and remember the Lord and give thanks to Him each and every day. So anyway, hopefully you guys have a blessed week. And again, we'll do this next Sunday starting at 10 p.m. Central Time. And we'll see you again real soon.